My guest today is Jonathan Hadley, partner at Gaydens Lawyers. Jonathan specialises in employment, industrial relations and workplace health and safety law, and he works with clients across energy and resources, construction, retail and government sectors, amongst others. Jonathan has a wealth of experience in employment-related issues, and I'm really excited to speak with him today about what we can expect as businesses start to return to work, and also about the potential fallout in 6 to 9 months' time. Thank you for joining me, Jonathan.
No, thank you for having me.
The past 2 months has seen significant workplace changes for most organisations in Australia. In your role as an employment partner at Gaydens, what have been the legal issues that you've largely been coming across?
Yes, well, as you can imagine, we've been exceptionally busy the last 2 months. We've had to advise around the clock almost on a number of different issues, such as flexible working arrangements, working from home policies, standing down employees, to unfortunately making a number of people redundant. A number of other issues have come up, such as pandemic leave and policies, as well as discussing JobKeeper payments, job seeker payments, and early access to super. So it's been a hectic couple of months, but at the end of the day, it looks like we're nearly through the first hurdle.
You know, with restrictions that are being lifted now, you know, most businesses are starting to plan about how they're going to get back to work and get back to some kind of normal. And for many, this means sort of getting back to the workplace, whether that's be in the office or retail environments. And some are also considering whether they actually continue to maintain a high level of work from home. What do you consider to be some of the biggest risks that need to be managed for, you know, for an employer's perspective?
Yeah, obviously the main risk we're seeing is in terms of the health and safety side of things. A workplace obviously isn't just limited to the normal office situation anymore. A workplace, obviously, the new normal, as everyone says, can be the home. So having a practical policy is something that we see as the main issue, as well as ensuring all the other issues that go with it, such as drug and alcohol obligations, as well as other situations such as clothing, we find is a real issue going forward. So, for example, we've had one recently where people were not getting up, showering, putting on office dress, and obviously working like they would in the office. So there's some real issues that are coming out, but it is primarily underpinned by all the safety obligations that still apply from an employer to their employees.
So I guess it sounds like there's probably been a lot of policy changes, or, you know, new policies that have had to be put in place. I hadn't really thought about the clothing one that you mentioned.
Yeah, unfortunately, a number of people have had to get used to the fact that working at home is the same as working in the office, and so what is subject to the scope of the policy, all the normal criteria apply. And it is a big change, and it's also very difficult for both the employer and the employee to get their heads around. But I think what we're seeing now is that a great many of people are now understanding the new normal.
One other thing that we've been seeing is there's been, you know, changes to the Fair Work Act and the introduction of the JobKeeper program. And it's just, you know, just been announced that there's been an enormous uptake of the JobKeeper stimulus. What impacts, you know, would you consider this having on employers and organisations?
Yeah, well, one thing the JobKeeper has done is obviously keep a number of people in the employee of the employers. So I suspect hindsight is a wonderful thing, and looking back, despite the large amount of money that it is costing the taxpayers, I suspect it is a good scheme. I suspect there might be some tinkering, but ultimately it's going to come to an end. Look, the issue we're seeing at the moment, though, is the turnover test, is actually people meeting that threshold. There are a number of businesses that are actually might not meet the relevant 50 or 30%, and that is obviously causing quite a bit of concern. There's also some rorts we're finding with the JobKeeper. So, you know, some, I think as the government calls them, zombie companies who are just paying people to keep them there, but at the end of the 6 months, the company and the employers will no longer be around. But ultimately, I think it's a very positive scheme, and ultimately, it's replicating what is now called also the job seeker payments, which are the same amount of money.
So, Jonathan, workforce restructuring, you know, probably seems to be inevitable over the next six to 9 months, especially as, you know, when the JobKeeper program comes to an end, and potentially when you start to see, you know, perhaps the fallout of some of those other organisations that you mentioned that haven't been able to meet those JobKeeper thresholds. Do you think that there's a high risk of unemployment litigation, and how can this be avoided?
Yeah, look, obviously, I think the risk is unfortunately extremely high in the next 6 to 9 months. We're seeing quite a few of the applications coming in. How to avoid it is simply to follow probably due process as per normal. I note that the Fair Work Commission, for example, has already had an increase of 165% on unfair dismissal claims. So it's quite a lot. And on top of that, we have also a number of general protection claims that we're hoping to help employers deal with, rather than, which is unfortunately a costly long trial. The other situation we're finding is also what we expected would be a large number of work cover claims that is expected to roll in. So it's going to be unfortunately inevitable that we're going to start seeing that people are going to claim for coronavirus as a work cover claim. And that's something that I think we haven't seen start just yet, but it's expected to be an avalanche in the next few months.
It'd be really great to hear if you have, you know, any advice for legal teams right now, perhaps, you know, things that that they can be doing to perhaps, you know, reduce the risk of, you know, some of these claims taking place in the future.
Yeah, look, the main advice I can give in that is to update the policies and procedures, and also to document any conversations that are had. It is exceptionally difficult now with the number of people obviously working from home, and obviously the interaction is not as it normally was. But at the same time, we still need to ensure that we're keeping contemporaneous file notes when speaking in a situation where you think there's some risk. So that's my advice, but also update the policies to reflect these changing times.
And is there anything else that, you know, you wanted to share, any sort of key sort of things that you're seeing, you know, in the future?
Look, I think the only thing I'm saying is that it looks like, hopefully, it looks like Australia is on top of the initial phase of the virus. So hopefully we can kickstart this economy and we can get people back safely into the workplace.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been fantastic speaking with you today.
Thank you. Cheers.